Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to journey into a hidden world. It's a landscape sculpted not by brute force, but by the quiet, super persistent chemistry of water. Yep, we're going underground to reveal the secrets of what's known as karst terrain.
So, I want to start with a question for you. What if I told you there's a secret world, carved entirely by water, hiding just beneath our feet? You've probably walked right over it 100 times and never even knew. So what is it? Well, let's find out. All right, let's dive right in. To understand this incredible underground world, we first have to know what we're talking about. The answer to that question I just asked? It all lies in a very unique type of landscape.
And here it is, a karst landscape. Now the key word here, the most important word, is dissolution. See, this isn't about a powerful river carving a canyon. This is a slow chemical process. Rainwater is naturally a little bit acidic, and when it seeps into soluble rocks like limestone, it literally dissolves it, bit by bit, over millions of years. It's a world built from the inside out.
So now that we know what karst is, let's go a little deeper. Literally. We're going to head down into the earth to see how one of its most amazing features, the cave, is actually born.
You know, it all starts so simply. Rainwater finds these tiny little cracks in the limestone and just seeps in. Then that same acidic water starts to dissolve the rock, carving out these small channels. Now fast forward through huge stretches of time, and those tiny channels grow, they connect, and they form the massive underground spaces that we call caves.
And we're not just talking about little pockets in the rock here. No way. Some of these cave systems are absolutely enormous. They can get so vast that they actually form multiple levels, one right on top of the other, creating something called a galleried cavern. It's like a subterranean mansion with floor after floor.
Okay, so we've made it inside the cave. And wow, it's like we've just stepped into nature's own private sculpture studio. The very same water that carved out this massive space now starts to decorate it with the most incredible formations.
So how does it do that? Well, this quote, it sounds a little sciencey, but it explains it perfectly. As water drips through the limestone, it picks up a mineral called calcium carbonate. When that single drop of water hits the air inside the cave, it leaves a microscopic deposit of that mineral behind. Every single sculpture we're about to see is built layer by tiny layer from those little deposits.
And now for the two most famous sculptures in the studio, stalactites and stalagmites. I know, it's so easy to mix them up, but here's a super simple trick to remember. Stalactites have to hang on tight to the ceiling, and stalagmites grow from the ground and might one day reach the top. See the difference? The stalactites are often sharp and slender, while the stalagmites are usually shorter, a little fatter, and more rounded.
So what do you think happens when a stalactite and a stalagmite finally meet? Well, after centuries, sometimes even millennia of this slow, patient growth, they join together and they form a single, magnificent structure called a pillar or a column. It's just a perfect, beautiful example of geological time at work.
All right, we're climbing back to the surface now. Because what happens underground in these landscapes doesn't stay underground. This hidden world has a dramatic and, frankly, vital connection to the landscape we see every day, and even to the way we live our lives. One of the most dramatic surface features is a limestone gorge. Now, think back to those massive galleried caverns we talked about. If the roof gets too thin over thousands of years, the whole thing can just collapse. What's left behind is this deep, steep-sided valley. So, the next time you see a gorge like this, you might actually be standing inside the ruins of an ancient cave. How cool is that?
It's not just about collapse, though. It's also about what comes out. All that water traveling through the underground network has to go somewhere, right? Well, when it hits a layer of rock it can't dissolve, it gets forced back up to the surface. This creates a spring, also called a resurgence, which becomes a totally crucial source of fresh water for entire ecosystems and communities.
And this brings us to a really important point. These landscapes are not just beautiful to look at, they are deeply connected to our modern lives in some really surprising ways. Let's just look at 5 of them. I mean, the utility of these regions is just incredible. That limestone rock is the key ingredient for cement, the stuff our cities are built with. It's also used in big industrial processes like smelting. The landscapes themselves, absolutely stunning, so of course they draw in tourists. And as we just saw, they're a critical source of fresh underground water. Plus, the soil on the surface often creates perfect grazing land for animals.
So, as we start to wrap this up, the really big takeaway is this. Karst landscapes are this perfect blend of natural art and practical utility.
They're hidden galleries sculpted by water over eons, and at the exact same time, they are a powerhouse of resources that we really rely on every single day.
And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. We've seen how these ancient landscapes are both incredibly beautiful and totally essential. So, how do we balance using their resources with preserving their delicate, slow-forming beauty for the